I caught her in the act. I didn't hear it from a friend or read it in a text. I saw it with my own eyes. My fiancée, the woman I had trusted with everything, was half-dressed in our living room, sitting on the lap of a man who collects garbage for a living. That image will never leave my mind. I stood there, frozen. They didn't even notice me at first. And when they did, she smiled. It was Tuesday night. I got off work early because of a power outage at the office. I thought I'd surprise Emily with dinner from her favorite Thai place and maybe a little movie night. I was smiling like an idiot the whole way home, already hearing her laugh in my head when I'd tell her about my boss tripping over a power cord right before the blackout. I didn't knock. It was my place. She had a key. She'd been staying with me almost every night for the past 3 months. We were getting married in October. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not food or candles, something sour, sweaty. Then I heard a laugh that didn't belong to her. I walked into the living room with the takeout still in my hands. And I saw her. Emily. In one of my shirts, unbuttoned halfway down. Straddling a man on the couch, mid-50s maybe, bald, sunburnt neck. The bright orange vest of a sanitation worker crumpled on the floor. His hands were on her waist. Hers were under his shirt. She looked up at me and smiled. "You're home early," she said. He jumped like he'd been electrocuted, scrambling to grab his pants from the floor. I couldn't move. I just stood there, holding a bag of pad thai like a clown. "Don't freak out," Emily said, like this was a conversation about dirty dishes. I didn't say a word. I set the food on the table and walked into the kitchen. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I could still hear her laughing, telling him to hurry up and go out the back door. He left without a word. When I came back out, she was sitting on the couch like nothing had happened. Same shirt. Same smirk. "I was going to tell you," she said, folding her arms. "But I wanted to see how long you'd keep playing the perfect little fiancé first." I asked her who he was. She said his name was Doug. He worked her route. Said she liked how real he was. Said I was too soft to ever notice. Too trusting. "You never questioned anything." "Not once." "You really thought I was faithful." She tilted her head, amused. "You're cute." I asked her how long it had been going on. She laughed again. "Does it matter now?" And that's when it hit me. She didn't feel guilty. She felt superior. She thought I was a joke. And for the first time in 5 years, I realized I didn't even know the person sitting in front of me. But she was about to know me. Really know me. Because the man she just humiliated? He's about to bury her. One step at a time. I didn't kick her out that night. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just sat down on the floor in the hallway outside the bedroom, leaning against the wall like I'd just run a marathon. She came out 15 minutes later with a towel on her head and my shirt still clinging to her like it belonged to her now. She walked past me, stopped, and looked down like she had something important to say. "You're not going to cry, are you?" she asked, pretending to sound concerned but unable to hide the amusement in her voice. I didn't answer. My throat was tight. She crouched down next to me and whispered, "It's kinda hot that you're this broken. Makes me feel powerful." That moment broke something in me. I thought maybe she would say it was a mistake, that she felt guilty, that she wanted to fix it. Instead, she rubbed salt in the wound. She enjoyed it. The next day she stayed. She didn't move out. She didn't pack a bag or even stop wearing my clothes. She walked around the apartment like nothing had changed. She made coffee, left wet towels on the bathroom floor, sat on my couch, watching Netflix, texting him while I stood in the kitchen trying to remember how to breathe. She laughed when I asked her to talk. "Oh, so now you want to communicate," she said, not even looking up from her phone. Where was all this emotional depth when I needed it? I told her I still loved her. She rolled her eyes. "You love the version of me you made up in your head. Not this. You just don't want to be alone." I asked her why she chose him, a man who scrubs alleyways and hauls dumpsters for a living. She smiled wide. "Because I could. Because he doesn't worship me like a little lost puppy. And because you'd never suspect a guy like that. Too dirty, right? Not your type of threat." She was enjoying every second of this. I didn't sleep for days. I still had hope, somehow, that if I just said the right thing, she'd come around. I told her we could go to therapy. I told her I could forgive her. I told her we didn't have to throw 5 years away. "You really are spineless," she said. "I cheat, lie, humiliate you in your own home, and you still want to fix it? God, I should write a book about you." She laughed so hard she choked on her coffee. That's when I stopped begging. Something in me turned cold. I stopped sleeping in the bed. I started sleeping on the floor in the office, door locked. I told her she could stay until the end of the month. But something deeper was already building inside me. She thought I was weak. But I wasn't weak. I was calculating. And she was about to become the subject of a lesson no one forgets. Not her. Not Doug. Not anyone who thinks they can play with a man's life and walk away unburned. She thought I was a doormat. I let her think it. For 2 more weeks, she paraded around the apartment like she owned it. Walked in with takeout bags she didn't bother hiding anymore. I saw one of them once, Doug. He waited in her car outside while she grabbed her charger from the bedroom. I stood at the window. He looked up, smirked. She told me I should get used to seeing his face. I nodded. I told her I was trying. The whole time, I was learning. I started gathering everything. I took screenshots of her texts. She was sloppy, never used a password on her phone, didn't even care that I saw. Sometimes she'd be texting him while we sat in the same room. You like watching, don't you? She teased. That's what this is, right? You're just some sad little spectator. I smiled. I said nothing. But I was saving it all. I pulled credit card statements. Traced every transaction, gas stations nowhere near her job, hotel charges in cash, fast food near Doug's trash route. I bought a GPS tracker and attached it under her car one morning while she was showering. I knew her routine to the minute. She never saw it coming. What I found over the next 6 days confirmed everything. Doug's route started at 5 a.m. She'd sneak out at 5:30, meet him in the alley behind the municipal lot, and come home before 7 o'clock like she'd just gone for a jog. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. And that told me something important. She thought she was winning, but I'd started documenting everything. I backed up the GPS logs, downloaded footage from a parking garage security came across from his station where they met almost every other morning. She'd wave as he pulled in his truck. One time she brought him coffee and sat on the curb while he changed shirts behind the dumpster. I made a folder on a hard drive and labeled it Honeymoon Insurance. But it wasn't just about proof. It wasn't about confrontation. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. About who I was going to become on the other side of this. I started going to the gym again. Not out of pride. Out of strategy. I needed to look composed, centered, controlled. Because what I was about to do would take discipline. I researched her employer. She worked in digital marketing, remotely. I found out her company had a strict morality clause in their employee code. No public conduct that brings reputational harm to the brand. Interesting. Doug? He was city sanitation. Union job. I looked up their code of conduct. Found a specific clause about inappropriate fraternization on city property. Then I started making friends with a guy on the HOA board. I'm doing a video project on city maintenance crews, I told him. You know, documenting waste management systems and stuff. Mind if I use the neighborhood's shared alley cam footage? He gave me admin access. Just like that. The footage from last Thursday? Emily and Doug. Him in uniform. Her in a tank top and slippers. Kissing behind the trash bins 2 doors down from our building. I saved the clip. Named it Policy Violation 003. She still thought I was devastated. She still looked down at me when she walked by. But every night, I slept better. Because I had one hand on the plug. And when I pulled it, everything she'd built, her image, her job, her little affair was going straight down the drain. It started with the photos. Not to her. Not to him. Not even to their employers. I sent them to her mother. Anonymously. A manila envelope. No return address. Inside, 9 high-resolution stills, all time-stamped, all pulled from security cams and GPS data. Emily and Doug in alleyways. Emily with her hand in his back pocket. One shot showed her laughing while he adjusted his work gloves, right before leaning in to kiss her against a recycling bin. Her mother called her an hour after the package arrived. I was in the kitchen when Emily picked up. What? She snapped, annoyed. Mom, it's early. She paused. Face dropped. I don't know what you're talking about. Another pause. She turned her back to me, but I saw her hand trembling. No, he doesn't know anything, she said. It's fine. She hung up without saying goodbye and walked into the bathroom. Locked the door. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. I heard nothing. No water. No toilet flush. Just silence. She came out eventually. Said nothing. Eyes puffy. For the first time in weeks, no smirk. That was the first time she looked unsure. And I wasn't done. That weekend, I filed a quiet complaint to the city using a burner email account, complete with attached footage of Doug's on-duty interactions with a civilian during work hours. I cited the exact city code number. I used language from their policy documents. I kept it sterile, factual, and devastating. He was suspended pending investigation by Monday. Emily didn't find out until Wednesday. How can they suspend him? She shouted, pacing our kitchen like it was her office. It's garbage pickup, not the FBI. She didn't know I was the one who submitted it. She didn't know that I already had a second copy of the complaint, with timestamps and receipt trail leading directly to her Wi-Fi IP address. I'd built that piece on purpose, just in case she ever got cute and accused someone else. That night, I caught her crying on the balcony. I said nothing. She came back in after midnight, smelled like wine, asked if I wanted to talk. I said, not tonight. And her face crumpled, just for a second. The next morning, she made me breakfast. First time in over a month. Said she was sorry for everything and wanted to start fresh. She asked if I wanted to go to therapy. I said I'd think about it. Later that afternoon, I moved the folder honeymoon insurance to a flash drive and locked it in a box in my office. I wasn't done. This was just the first strike. And now that she'd tasted loss, I wanted her to fear the next blow. Because it was going to be personal. I underestimated her. After Doug's suspension, after the tears on the balcony, I thought I had her pinned. She cooked, cleaned, even wore that old sweater I once said made her look like home. For a minute, I let myself believe maybe, just maybe, she was broken enough to change. I was wrong. The real Emily came back swinging. It started with a call from HR at my job. Apparently, someone had submitted an anonymous tip claiming I'd been using company resources to stalk my fiancée. The email included evidence that I'd used my work laptop to install surveillance tools. A few screenshots were attached. They were fake, but convincing fabricated logs showing remote access to her phone and location data. I work in IT. I know how to trace and build data trails. And I never used my work devices for any of that. But it didn't matter. HR said they were opening an investigation. I spent the next 2 days fielding meetings, drafting statements, and trying to convince my manager that I wasn't some obsessed creep hacking his girlfriend. Emily played dumb when I confronted her. What are you talking about? She asked, wide-eyed. Why would I do that? But her mouth twitched when she said it. That's when it hit me, she'd been planning a strike of her own. While I was playing chess, she went full scorched earth. And she wasn't done. That weekend, she told our landlord I'd become emotionally unstable. Said I'd threatened to destroy her things. Said she was afraid for her safety. He came by in person to check on her. Offered her a short-term lease in one of the other units if she needed space. She declined, of course. Because this wasn't about leaving. It was about turning me into the villain. The next morning, I found a police cruiser parked across the street. Just sitting there. Watching. I hadn't done anything, but I didn't need to. All it took was one offhand comment from her to someone in authority. He's not the man I thought he was. No accusations. Just fear. Manufactured, but effective. My boss told me to take the week off. Let things cool down, he said. Cool down? My entire life was boiling over, and she was the one turning up the heat. At home, she acted like nothing was wrong. Maybe we both went too far, she said one night, sitting on the couch beside me. Let's stop hurting each other. I said nothing. She leaned in closer. Whispered, you're not the only one who can play dirty. Then she kissed me on the cheek and went to bed. I didn't sleep that night. She'd drawn blood. And worse, she'd framed me as dangerous, unhinged. Now I knew the truth. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to ruin me. And I just lost round 2. She thought she'd buried me. Thought she'd painted me into a corner where every move made me look worse. But I wasn't playing defense anymore. The day after I got benched at work, I drove 3 hours out to a town neither of us had ever set foot in. I met with a man named Troy, my cousin's friend. He runs a private data firm. Retired cybersecurity guy. The kind who knows how to make noise and how to disappear after. I handed him the flash drive labeled honeymoon insurance. Told him I wanted 2 things. First, I said, I want all of this ready to go live online. Not yet, just armed. Like a loaded gun. Second, find out who Doug really is. Everything. Troy didn't ask why. He just nodded and got to work. I drove back that night with something I hadn't had in weeks, calm. Because this time, I had the upper hand. 3 days later, Troy sent me a file. Doug, city sanitation worker by title, was on a 2-strike disciplinary record already. One for fighting on the job, the other for inappropriate behavior with a civilian in a city vehicle. That one was buried in sealed HR records, but Troy got it anyway. And then he found the gold. Doug had lied on his city application. 2 prior misdemeanors, one for indecent exposure, the other for disorderly conduct in public housing. Both sealed under a deferred judgment deal years ago. The kind that could resurface if he got caught again. Guess what? Security cam footage of him and Emily in the alley? That was strike 3. I printed everything. Bound it. Labeled it to whom it may concern. A pattern of conduct. I sent it, not to Doug's boss. Not to the union. To the City Council Ethics Board. Anonymous, of course. The next day, Doug was placed on indefinite unpaid leave pending review of new evidence. Emily didn't come home that night. She texted, staying at a friend's. Don't wait up. I didn't. Instead, I made another move. I created a burner Instagram. Used an AI face generator for the profile pic. I followed a few of her coworkers, a few of mine, then started slowly uploading clips. Short ones. Silent. Just grainy enough to feel real. Just clear enough to recognize the people. Emily. Doug. City truck. Alley. Timestamped. No caption. Just the footage. 2 hours later, I got a text from her. What did you do? I didn't answer. Next morning, she stormed into the apartment. I was at the table eating cereal like it was just another Thursday. You posted that video? I looked at her. Calm. Which one? Her hands were shaking. You're trying to ruin my life. No, I said. I'm just making sure people know who they're dealing with. She tried to pull the power card again. I could still go to the police. Say you've been tracking me. You could, I said. But it'd be funny explaining why your boyfriend's disciplinary file showed up on a city server, wouldn't it? She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. And maybe she didn't. Because I wasn't begging anymore. I wasn't crying. I was building. And she just realized how high the drop would be if I decided to push. I thought I had her caged. But the thing about cornered animals? They bite. 2 days after Doug got pulled from his route and I dropped the footage online, Emily vanished. No warning. No texts. Her clothes were gone. Her toiletries. Even the framed photo of us she used to keep on the desk, gone. I didn't panic. I thought maybe she'd retreated, regrouping somewhere, licking her wounds. But then the letters started arriving. First one was from my HR department. The investigation into me had been reopened. New evidence. This time, it wasn't just screenshots. They had voice recordings. She had submitted audio clips. They were edited, but I recognized my voice. Sounded like I was threatening her. Saying things I never said. I didn't even know where or when the original audio had been taken. She'd been recording me for weeks. And now, she'd remixed it into something twisted. HR suspended me indefinitely. No pay. Pending further legal review. Then came the second hit. A letter from a lawyer. Emily was accusing me of emotional harassment, cyberstalking, and retaliatory defamation. Her lawyer demanded a cease and desist. Said they'd consider further action if I didn't remove all online materials and issue a formal apology. The document even referenced potential civil penalties if Doug's union got involved. I'd walked right into it. Every piece of evidence I'd dropped publicly, she was reframing it as a sick, jealous vendetta. And the scariest part? She was good at it. She'd turned herself into a victim, and me into an unstable ex with tech skills and an obsession. I didn't hear from Troy for days. Even he said I needed to lay low. She's building a case, he warned. And she's smart. If she gets a judge to believe she's unsafe, you could lose everything. Not just your job. I stayed off socials. Locked everything down. But the damage was already bleeding out. My boss, who once called me dependable, now he wouldn't return my emails. My neighbors stopped saying hi in the hallway. Even my own sister messaged me. What's going on? I saw a video. I don't know what to believe. Emily had done it. She turned public opinion like flipping a switch. And just like that, it wasn't her who looked like a liar. It was me. I came home one night to find a piece of paper taped to my front door. No envelope. Just one sentence, typed. You never knew who I really was. She wasn't wrong. I'd spent 5 years loving a version of her that never existed. And now, the real one was winning. But as I pulled the paper down, a strange calm settled over me. Because if she was willing to fight dirty, so was I. And I hadn't even opened the final folder on that flash drive yet. She wanted to play with fire. She forgot I was the one holding the matches. I disappeared for a week. No calls. No texts. No updates to anyone. Just silence. Let her feel the quiet. Let her wonder if I'd given up, or if I was loading the next shot. Because I was. Troy finally finished decrypting the data from Emily's old phone backups, the ones I copied to my drive back when she still trusted me with her passwords. There were things on there she probably thought were long gone, including the texts. Hundreds of them. Between her and Doug. Between her and a third guy, someone named Brandon. An old friend from her company's West Coast office. Apparently, Doug wasn't the only sanitation worker in her life. Brandon was a janitor at the San Diego branch. They'd met during a company retreat 2 years ago. She called him her coastal maintenance buddy. The texts weren't just flirtatious, they were detailed. Explicit enough that I felt sick just scrolling. She had a type. Men covered in dirt, living in shadows, easy to control. But the best part? She'd emailed him from her company address. Multiple times. She even sent photos. From the office. From the client lounge. One in the server room, wearing nothing but her work badge. Troy flagged the email headers. Everything checked out. I printed every one of them. Full color. Time-stamped. Cross-referenced with company policy. Then I mailed a hard copy to her HR department, with a cover letter from a concerned business partner questioning how this kind of behavior reflected on a publicly visible marketing firm. 2 days later, I got the confirmation I was waiting for. Her LinkedIn? Gone. Her name on the company site? Removed. Her company email? Disabled. She was fired. No warning. No chance to spin the story. Just gone. I didn't stop there. Doug's union? Still reviewing his case, but Troy helped me find an old disciplinary report that never made it to the city system. I submitted it anonymously, this time to the local newspaper. Not as a scandal. Just a tip. Within 48 hours, a short piece ran online. Repeat violator sanitation worker suspended pending misconduct review. His name was there. So was the city truck number. So were photos. His phone was probably melting by the end of the day. That night, Emily showed up at the apartment. Hair wet. Makeup smudged. Voice shaking. I lost my job, she said quietly, standing in the doorway like a ghost. I didn't move. She stepped inside. Closed the door. Took a deep breath like she was about to scream, but instead, she collapsed. Right there on the living room floor. You win, she whispered. But I wasn't smiling. Because this wasn't a game. This was the wreckage of a life built on lies, and I had just kicked out the last support beam. The only thing left now was the truth I hadn't used yet. The one piece that could bury her for good. And she had no idea what it was. She stayed on the floor for almost 10 minutes, curled up like a shell of the woman who used to walk through my apartment with her chin high and smirk loaded. I didn't say a word. I just watched. When she finally stood up, her voice was hoarse. You ruined my life. I didn't correct her. She'd done that herself? I just pulled open the drawer behind me, took out a small black envelope, and placed it gently on the table between us. She stared at it. Then at me. What is that? I sat down. Calm. Cold. That, I said, is what I haven't used. Yet. She hesitated, then opened it. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the document. 2 pages. A contract and an email chain. It was from 3 months ago, right before everything unraveled. A job offer. Not to her. To me. I'd gotten an interview at a cybersecurity consulting firm in DC 6 figures. Relocation paid. The kind of opportunity people wait their whole careers for. I never told her because the week I got it, she said she wanted to finally settle down. I turned it down. For her. But here was the twist. She knew about the offer. The email had been forwarded to her account, by mistake, and she deleted it from my inbox. Marked it as spam. Then blocked the sender so I'd never hear back. I only found out because Troy recovered the metadata trail when combing through my device history. I watched her face shift from confusion to horror. How did you get this? She whispered. I didn't get it, I said. You did. And you made sure I never saw it. Her knees gave out. She sank into the chair, gripping the table like it was keeping her upright. I didn't think you'd actually get the job, she said. And if you moved, that would have ruined everything. I wasn't ready. I raised an eyebrow. Ready for what? To marry me? Or to keep sneaking around with a janitor 3 states away? She didn't answer. This wasn't just a betrayal anymore. She hadn't just cheated on me, she sabotaged me. She stole a life I could have had. A career. A clean break. And here's where the twist lands. I hadn't used this evidence yet. But now, it was in her hands. Because the next step wasn't revenge. It was choice. If I released that document, forwarded it to her old employer, to the city HR, to every mutual friend who ever believed in her, she'd never work again. Not in anything above minimum wage. Not with a documented history of corporate interference and deception. And she knew it. That night, I left the envelope on the table and went to bed. Around 2 a.m., I heard her leave. No door slam. No tears. Just footsteps. Quiet. Shaking. I didn't know if I'd ever see her again. But I did. Just not in the way I expected. 3 days passed. I didn't hear from her. I didn't care. The apartment was quiet for the first time in months. I slept like a stone. Ate real food again. Started drafting my resume. Then, on the 4th morning, I woke up to banging at the door. Not knocking. Banging. I opened it, and there she was. Emily. Hair pulled back, dark circles under her eyes, mascara smudged from tears that hadn't even dried. And she dropped. Right there. On her knees. She didn't speak right away. Just held up the black envelope I'd left for her creased, clutched, like she'd been squeezing it in her sleep. Her voice cracked. Please, she said. Please don't send this. Please don't destroy me. I didn't say anything. She crawled forward a few inches, then sat on her heels, hands shaking as she pressed them together like she was praying. I'm done. You win. I've lost everything. My job. My name. My future. Doug left. He said I'm radioactive now. I don't even blame him. A bitter laugh forced its way out of her mouth. I was stupid. I was cruel. I thought I was in control. I thought you were weak and that I could break you. She looked up at me then, eyes glassy and red. But you weren't weak. You were watching. Waiting. And I didn't see it until it was too late. I stayed silent. She crawled closer and grabbed the hem of my shirt, clinging to it like it might keep her upright. I know I don't deserve it, but please, don't finish me. Still, I said nothing. I'll disappear. I'll walk away, right now. I won't contact anyone. I won't try to fix it. I won't speak your name again. Just, don't send that last thing. Please. For a long moment, I just stared at her. The woman who once laughed in my face straddled a sanitation worker on my couch and called me spineless. The woman who stole a job from me, wrecked my name, and tried to make me the villain. Now she was kneeling in front of me, broken, and I had the final piece that could end her. But I didn't hand it in. I bent down, picked up the envelope from her shaking hands, looked her in the eyes. You already ended yourself, I said quietly. I just showed you the mirror. She collapsed into a sob, face in her hands. I walked back inside, left the door open. She stood up, wobbled, and walked away. She never came back. I got my job reinstated a month later. Quietly, without questions. I didn't even ask for back pay. I moved out by the end of the year. Took the consulting offer in D.C. They remembered me. Said my timing was surprisingly perfect. Sometimes, I still see her name on forgotten bills, her old contacts in my phone. But I never reached out. And I never sent that file. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because I deserved peace more than she deserved punishment. And I'll leave you with this. What would you have done in my place?